Morning, a very happy Onam, Pongal, Mahasankranti. I know it's a bunch of things to all of you, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome such a powerful panel of leaders. We're focusing on the tech industry today, and I thought it was time to take check of some realities and also perhaps break some myths around careers in tech. And we have a very powerful community of women leaders amongst us, some who've already chosen paths and some who are still working their way through. So we thought it would be hugely inspirational to hear your stories and, have some takeaways that they could apply to their own lives and businesses as well. So let me kick off and we'll keep this free flowing. So, please do, jump in, if you, because I know some of you may have met each other. Is this the first time you're all meeting each other? Aarthi, Kanti, Sukhmani, have you kind of come across each other before?
First time for me.
First time for Sanchi? Yeah. Okay, well, great. So hopefully, we'll all get to know each other better. So what I really found fascinating when I was looking at your journeys was each of you have had a very different career trajectory. And each of you had a very different career trajectory and milestones and challenges that you've all come across. And so it just shows how many varied ways there are to get to the top. And that's what I found fascinating. So let me start off with you, Aarthi, because, you were, I think, at Cognizant for about 17, 18 years, doing something different. Today, you're at Freshworks doing something different and truly leading the way. So why don't you first share with us, what your journey has been like?
Okay. Thanks for that, and Happy New Year to all of you, and thanks so much for the opportunity. I just want to take a moment, to craft this journey, right? Even Cognizant happening or me moving into tech was a very different story. I come from a diverse and interesting family background. For people in Chennai, they may know my dad. He's a leading drama artist with over 7,000 stage appearances and still going strong. He's in a troupe called Crazy Creations. So it's a comedy troupe. Whereas my mother, on the other hand, is a strict academician, retired professor and doctorate. So it was an interesting mix of theater, academia, literature, music, dance, and home. However, I was a science and math kid focused on studies. I was a topper in engineering at NIT Trichy, spent 6 years in technology, in coding, before I went on to do my MBA at Indian School of Business. And I was a gold medalist there too. From ISB, I joined Cognizant. As you said, I spent 17 years there. And I did variety of roles. Started with program management and M&A and integration. And through that, came across an opportunity to set up our Asia Pacific business. So it was a 10-year journey of setting up Asia Pacific. Sorry, I'm hearing an echo. Okay. So it grew on from like literally nothing to about 500 million in 10 years. So it gave me an opportunity to set up office, hire leaders, enable, sales, analyst relations, marketing. And 10 years into the journey, I again wanted to step back and, took a small break, was one among the 14 across India mid-level managers to be chosen for Fulbright scholarship, and spent 3 months in Tepper School, Carnegie Mellon. When I came back, Cognizant was hiring powerful COO roles for each of the business units. And you had to interview, apply, and compete with others. And I became COO for one of the business units. And that was again another 5 years journey. So by then I had completed 17 years. Then I was thinking, right, do I just continue on this path? Should I try something different? It was not easy to make a shift, but Freshworks is a leading brand in Chennai, doing really well. And again, the idea was to get to IPO in a couple of years. And so you had to scale up operations. So, of course, I was moving from services to products, from a large organization to small organization, established to a growth and startup. I'm sure many in the panelists here are in that phase. And it was a lot of learning and unlearning, but Freshworks was very exciting. And that's where I am in the past 2 years. It's been 2 years, and we did go IPO last quarter. So it's an amazing growth journey and learning experience. You are on mute.
Still on mute.
So yes, of course, we tracked the IPO and all the excitement around it. What a wonderful story, that we've seen with Freshworks, and also how they've, built that story for, for the entire team as well. What I love about, the way Aarthi tells her stories, you can tell how much fun she's had along the way. So I'm going to come back to the coding part of it later. But Kanti, let me bring you in, because you're touted to be, the unicorn to look forward to, in another couple of years. No pressure, but but it's something I think for you is just going to be a cakewalk, given the kind of speed and agility with which you've been growing your businesses. Tell us about your journey.
Sure. And I have to tell you, I think Aarthi, I cried all day when that IPO was happening. It had nothing to do with me, but the Indian industry, Indian software industry, the product industry, going such great guns was such an emotional day for, I think, every the whole day, like every few hours, I was like, oh, this is happening. So it was amazing. Little bit about my journey. It's been, I have a degree in chemistry. So it's completely different from what I'm doing today. And the only thing that I understood after completing my my degree is I am not getting into chemistry again. So let me do what else, what else is there? And this fascination for small organizations, for younger organizations was there day one. So my first job was eValueServe, which was then a startup. It had about 220 people. I started my journey there. I was there for about a year and a half to almost 2 years. And then I got this opportunity to be part of a startup that had not been founded yet, that the founders were still looking at the initial team. So I became the first employee at this company called UnitedLabs, which was, looking at legal services with a tech angle to it. So I thought, okay, so I had a job offer from Johnson & Johnson, and it was on the last day when I was supposed to move to Bombay that this offer came by of this startup. And I thought, Johnson & Johnson, first employee, I'm going to go the first employee route. Sounds much simpler. I guess that's I guess history there, right there, where my entire journey has been only about startups, only about companies that didn't exist into companies growing. So I spent 5 years at UnitedLabs building, and for the first time I learned how to create products, test products, write a bit of code, and all of that happened then. And then started my own journey with SirionLabs, where the idea was so exciting, so potent, the ability to make a real world impact. And back in 2012 and 13, we all got together to see, okay, what can we build? So many years later, we're trying to get to the next stage of growth. But yeah, I mean, for me, the journey has been super
fine, no problem.
Just be patient with the, go
on.
Yeah,
no worries. So it's always been small organizations where I can take autonomous decisions, where I can build the team, the culture. That's been something which I really enjoy doing, while solving a real world problem. And that, I think, for me, again, is very important, that am I making a difference in the world that we are in.
I know, and I think that's fascinating, and I'm going to come to that. in my next round of questions, because I feel that technology, and not just me, but we know that technology is driving change, and what really each of you, are really applying and doing in order to create that multifold impact. Sukhmani, let me bring you in, because you also have a very interesting profile. You're hardcore, of course, into tech, and I also want you to perhaps share with our members today what it means to really be a woman who understands tech. I mean, is it that scary? Is it, I mean, do you have to I don't know, have like a certain skill set or understanding of numbers? Is it that difficult to enter the tech world and be like the one woman in this plethora of men? I've seen the website. It's like a sea of men, and then there's one Sukhmani somewhere over there,
Yeah, sure. I think I'll start with kind of saying that from an Indian context, this is, I think, the first time I've been on a call with so many women, because generally when you're meeting VPs or CEOs, it's 10 men and I'm sitting there. This is like an extremely interesting change. And my journey started similar to Kanti. I did in electrical engineering and I realized I don't want to do that for the rest of my life. And then I was always interested in data, like numbers kind of were exciting. So I did have placement offer from IBM and TCS. And then I heard about this company through seniors about latent view analytics. And it was in Chennai and I got a job there. So that was my parents like, why do you want to go to a place where we know no one? And why would you want to work in a company that nobody's heard of? But that would just seem more interesting. So like the same thing, taking the road less traveled seemed a more interesting choice. So when I joined Latent View, it was around 70 people. We were like the first batch of college hires that they did. And I was there for about 7 years. So we kind of grew with the company. So you start as a fresher where you know nothing. And then you kind of scale up, you grow, you get into the managerial role, you understand. There were a lot of on-site opportunities that happened. And after around 6 years, I realized that I worked enough. People generally go do MBAs. I took a sabbatical, traveled for 6 months, did nothing else. And from there, I realized, okay, I've done this. I've done a company from 80 to 500 people. Now I want to try a company which is less than 20, 30 people. So then I joined another startup in Gurgaon, which was again your top level. There was one other woman in the team. And I think the entire company out of 30, there were 3 of us who were women. And from there, I got this opportunity for SourceFuse. So I had interned in this company 10 years ago. And they were looking to kind of start an analytics division. So here I got a chance to kind of set up my own teams, decide what we do. So that kind of is a really interesting role. And it's been 2 years here, but I think there's still a long way to go.
Amazing.
It's actually not scary at all. It's like if you find it interesting, if you like it, I think it's a great place to be. There's so much of learning. Like every project, every day is very different. And there's so much happening and so much changing that you can't sit and go to your job and say that I know what I have to do today. You really don't.
I love that. That's amazing. And I can see everyone else smiling. So you all obviously relate to this. Okay, I see Mallika's also joined in, and I'm going to come to her in a minute. Morning, Mallika. Sanchi, why don't you jump in and tell us about your work? And you actually interweave design and tech. So, you have your own interesting field in which you're kind of growing.
Yeah, so my journey with tech has been like quite different. Honestly, I haven't studied the sciences in school. Okay. So I started my journey as an apparel designer. I did that for 4 years in my graduation, and I actually worked as a apparel designer for 2 years, only to realize that there were certain aspects of it that I enjoyed, and luckily I stumbled upon this great course at National Institute of Design called Strategic Design Management. And I don't think I fully understood it, but I just looked at some of the projects of our seniors and I thought, okay, this looks like an interesting space. And I tried to figure it out. So at that time, I think it was still very nascent, where people didn't understand how design was a strategic tool that could be used to make business decisions. And as young graduates, we were also very confused that, are we doing the business of design or design of business? So there were all these terms. So there was a lot of room to explore and experiment. with respect to what we can do. And I started my journey with Samsung as a UX strategist. And honestly, at that point, I had like this whole imposter syndrome because I thought that I don't understand tech. What am I doing here? I also went from there to work as a product manager in a startup called Shuttle. And I'm blessed to have had amazing mentors who pushed me and helped me understand all these things that were really scary for me initially. Like, what is analytics? How do I navigate my way through it? And how do I understand how to build this product from all these insights that we are getting? But I think what happened for me was I realized how design is so powerful, because what we learn as a design process back in school is something that is now becoming very famous by design thinking. I'm sure all of you must have heard about that term. But the beauty of it is that you take that process, and if you apply that approach to anything, you can actually understand any problem from a user's perspective and get like an insight about it from a user's lens and find a way to navigate through it. So that has been my journey from like a design student who went into tech as a product manager, not really understanding the nitty gritties. And that's when I realized that this whole thing is like my actual driver is to be able to experiment with design and take it to most non-conventional places. Because when we think of design, what we usually think of is aesthetics. That okay, when something is pretty, when something is beautiful, is that is design. But how I understand design, I understand it as the thought, as the thinking process. And that was the idea with which cross design was born. That we want to take the design and the design processes to all kind of verticals. So we've worked in edtech, we worked in fintech, we've worked in healthcare. We've also worked in social innovation. Like currently we are doing a project where we are working with fish farmers in the Northeast and trying to understand how we can actually bring all the new technologies in their context, where it's accessible to them, and help them sort of build a very sustainable aquaculture in their regions. So that is the idea between what we do.
That's a lot. That's covering a wide variety of spectrum. Mallika, and you know, bringing out an individual story as well. She also has a very different kind of path. Mallika, you can best describe it. So over to you.
Well, first things first, having been at work for for the longest time, I think I've been at work for about 15, 16 years. I'd request the elephant in the room to not grab the spotlight as always, for there are other beings in the zoo as well. And the elephant in this case, I think as women, we'll all agree, the woman never leaves us, even at work. If we keep allowing this to happen, like it has continued to, we'll never give ourselves the honesty, the respect, the acceptance we deserve as mainstream professionals, you know, because just because we're women, it's not like we get like GST discounts, or we start with, you know, bank accounts free, pre-filled with crores. We all start at scratch, like other genders do. We work just as hard. We are as capable, knowledgeable, competitive, passionate, sincere. This whole question of how does it feel like being a woman designer? I'm a designer. Like, let's get the woman out of it and let's get to businesses. You know, very, very important for us to sort of start accepting ASAP, because it's not like we're not accountable for accounts. It's not like we're not paying salaries. It's not like we get to work for lesser hours and reap more money. It's all equal, as it should be. And so I feel like our drives should matter, our intent should matter, our outcomes should matter, and what we say, how we say it, who it reaches should matter, not our gender. And I think we can make this trickle effect happen for our future women as well. Because you see, if we want more ladies to lead, we will need to accept that then if you're one of us or one of those who choose to be at workforce, you can't have an ecosystem of people who differentiate based on your gender. And I don't want people to think that differentiation is a bad or a negative word, because physiologically we are different and differences should be celebrated. But when it becomes a disability, when it becomes something that people sympathize with or stop taking our work as seriously, or our efforts and our hard work or the hours we put in, just because we're expected to, or then we're trained to be guilty of not doing what women should be doing, I think that needs to stop. And the moment you choose to step on the field, or like you're a professional, I feel like if we can do this for ourselves as women, take away the woman out of our work, our successes, our failures, our professional routines, our professional choices should stem out of an ecosystem of people you and I choose for ourselves at work and in our personal lives as well. But as a digital storyteller, and I know because I'm saying this out of experience because I've met so many women that I've managed to interview over time and work with, very strong ones, and with new media being my chosen platform for creating kind of content, which is what I have learned over time is possibly closer to my purpose in life, and is the reason I do the work I do. I can confirm that you can confirm that the dearth of women representation at work doesn't exist in number as much as it did a few decades ago, or that we lack the talent or the intent or the capacity, or that men don't support women. I feel like women who are willing, and this is very important to note, willing, and I'm going to put out a disclaimer because I do get into trouble sometimes, that since there are those who opt out of work, all gender, because of other priorities, and are allowed to, and we should celebrate them equally for making the choices that they do, but I'm not going to make them a part of this conversation per se. But for women who are choosing to be at work, are setting milestones we've never witnessed. They constitute senior positions, boardroom designations. There isn't a single genre or a working space where I feel like we can do without the women, or women won't make the cut in Excel. So the issue is not really the representation, according to me. I feel like the problem really is the representation of our narrative of these women. Okay. And so I feel like we need to get out of that dark cloud of doom and hush and shy and stuff that we're being forced to grow up under through the stories that we seem most connected to. We have multiple platforms that we engage with also every day, and we further communicate, fueling them to just subtly separate us from the mainstream. I feel like for the future ladies who will lead, I need them to know that before they start, men are kind, and you will find strong women who will support you, and whatever success means to you, you will find it. Just keep your head down, chin up, and don't let anyone stop you. There will be speed breakers in multiple faces, genders, positions, everything that you'll be told, and there will be a few accidents, and some of them can be bone breaking, heart damaging, but there are doctors on the way, and you will heal and you will shine. And I feel like as we rebuild a world post-pandemic, fortunately using technology, which is a very, very equal platform if we choose to use it properly. This is our opportunity to remind ourselves that nobody actually likes to work. As an entrepreneur, I can confirm, and I'm hoping that this point onwards, I'm including the other gender, the people who identify themselves however they choose to, the other beings that I'm talking about at the zoo that we never address, because this elephant is now so famous, economically viable for political gains. International banks like to siphon off money on marketing budgets and creating memes.
Wait. That's so much to absorb. So wait, we're gonna come back on some of this. Let me bring Kanti and Aarthi in on some of the things you've mentioned. One of the things that you've talked about is the importance of a mentor, right? Kanti, let me come to you. You've been very vocal about, women leaders, growing women leaders in the ecosystem, the importance of diversity, so on and so forth. You're building your own companies. Tell us from your vantage point, how things are changing, the importance of mentors, what challenges still exist for women.
Sure. So I while I've been working for about 17 years, some of my strongest, mentors, people I looked up to, they were women, and, men equally, actually. And what I realized was that the need for both, for both type of representations have to be there in a very strong way for any ecosystem to be balanced. Women bring, while men bring a whole range of capabilities, women, bring a very different perspective to the workplace, especially, the ability to get things done, the ability to, not know a goal and just, achieve it, the ability to multitask and, work in n directions, the ability to, keep a straight face while, a kid is crying in the corner and still, somehow appear completely under control or in control. And empathy. I think one of the biggest things that women bring to the table is empathy towards employees, towards customers, towards the product you're building. So what I saw is that, when I got support from others, women or men, I was able to know that if I was there standing for other women in my organization, they would probably flourish, way more than what they are flourishing today. And so in Sirion, we are almost 50% women. A whole range of, leadership positions are filled by women. And the good news is that we've tried to, take away the gender conversation. If you're capable, if you're delivering, if you have the right skills, and let's say you took a small break. I had 2 children while at Sirion. So, the 3 months, 6 months break, whatever I needed, I took it, and the environment around me was super supportive to bring me back. So the idea is that we have to create that environment for ourselves around us and give how much we get in return and more. That I think is important, and therefore the mentors around you are super important.
And do you need to understand tech in order to be part of a tech company? Because there must be other roles, other opportunities. You could still be part of a culture, because these days people want to choose a culture that they resonate with or that they, connect with. They feel it has a goal, they can grow. So tomorrow, if, a young woman wants to join SirionLabs, like you said, the ratio, the mentorship, the ecosystem, do they need to understand tech?
Yes and no. As a company, we work in the legal space, in the legal and contracting space. So there are both tech roles because we are primarily a product company first. And then there are non-tech, legal, contract management, finance management roles as well. And then, of course, all the support departments. So, but you have to have the right skills and the will to be part of a growing, very agile working environment where you can take decisions yourself. And, not everything will be part of a process or, spoon-fed. So if you're looking for like a very dynamic place where you can, change things and, control the narrative around you, it is a great place to be. And tech, of course, if you want to be part of the tech organization or the product organization, having that relevant experience would obviously, be very helpful.
Okay. Aarthi, give us your insight as well. You've worked in companies and even at Freshworks where you take on a lot of freshers. Is the journey different for a woman joining versus a male joinee? And, what are the kind of challenges that you feel women need to overcome? Or like Mallika is saying, do we just dispel that myth? Is it a myth? Is it really an equal playing field?
Yeah, very, very important question to look at. Take, I'll give an example, right? You look at all the academic institutes, you get 10 standard, 12 standard results. Girls outperform boys, they do well. Then get into your academic institutes, again, you would see equal representation of girls and boys and people do well. And even in tech industry, where I come from, at entry level, the percentage will be equal. Maybe it will even maybe higher on the girls versus boys. But as we progress along, right, this is where you lose some of the women. And as it becomes more and more at a higher level, that is where you see, as Sukhmani said, right, in leadership meetings, you still see women, as Mallika said, the percentage is increasing a lot from what we were seeing a decade or two earlier. Like Freshworks, you see, in the leadership, there are 3 powerful women today, and board, there are 3 powerful women. And there are, I have, a big mentor within Freshworks to guide me. And I am a mentor for many of the others. So, but I feel, I agree with Mallika, it is a myth that we have to dispel. It is, I'll give a personal example, right? I mean, Kanti says she's proud mom of 2 girls, and I'm also a proud mom of 2 girls. And my elder one, she's like Sukhmani in a way, and Kanti in a way, in the sense she represented Tamil Nadu cricket team in under 16 and 19. So, and she's a keeper. At the same time, she wanted to focus on academics, and IIT JEE was her dream. So she was saying, hey, should I leave out cricket and let me focus on studies? I said, no. Why do we have to have imaginary choices? Do both as long as you can do. And I'm really proud today, just 2 months back, she got into IIT Madras. So probably Kanti, she'll be your...
Congratulations.
Thank you. Chemical junior in a way. And, but coming to me, right? So many people, hey, you are in services industry for 17 years, sort of Cognizant has become a place where you know everyone and you're so comfortable, and you're moving from there to a growth company where obviously you'll have to put in longer hours, and there's so much unlearning and relearning that you need to do. Do you have to do the shift at this stage when your daughter is stepping from 10th to 11th? It's a crucial couple of years, right? So that is what I'm talking about as imaginary choices, right? The question will obviously on, do I need to move? But why should we second guess? Just do it. We'll figure out a way on how to do it along the way. A lot of times we take up a problem and think of 100 different reasons why something cannot be done. And then we, pull back, we lose. If you're not passionate about, we don't take the opportunity. We are not on the table. However, if you have the right support structure and you can make 100 different reasons to make things happen. So I would say, it is challenges that women face is no different from challenge from anyone will face in their life. Life is not without challenges, but is that an excuse that we give ourselves? Do we hold back? I would say don't second guess. Don't have imaginary choices. We can, should, and must try to have it all.
I love that. Mallika's nodding emphatically. So, Sukhmani, let me bring you in here as well and get your perspective on some of these things.
So like Aarthi mentioned, right? Like when we started, there were, I think, a lot more women in my team. At analyst level, I've seen that there were women in my team otherwise. But when you look up, even in a company that I said went from 80 to 500, if I look up, there were probably 2 women in your top 3 levels. And when you see that, it is sort of discouraging, right? Because you like, do I have that path or not? And especially someone who's kind of starting out. So that's where I think the mentors really do come in. And it doesn't need to be a male or a female mentor. It's just someone who kind of tells you that the world is kind of open for you. There is so much to be done, and there is anything that you want. Just figure out what you want and kind of do that. And that's where things kind of change. But at a lower level also, right? I think in bigger companies, these problems don't happen. But for example, if you're staying beyond, say, 7 p.m., companies need to kind of provide transportation to you, need to kind of make sure that you reach home safely. So that becomes a liability for smaller companies. I've had instances, because I've worked in smaller companies, where people have said that, okay, even if there's a client call at 8 p.m., you've done all the work that had to be done for it. It's better that you don't take this call, you go back home. Otherwise, it's a liability for us to kind of get you back. And those kind of things do happen today also. So it's basically trying to kind of create that space so that everyone does have that equal opportunity. And again, when equal opportunity, it's not that when you're choosing candidates, are you choosing based on the gender? I don't think that happens at all. As long as you do have the right skill set, people will take you in. But then the mindset, the small things like these kind of start happening. In fact, there was a conversation with a senior person once, and he said that if I have to choose, so this is mindset that does exist in some people's mind, that if I'm choosing between a male and a female candidate as a fresher, I'll choose a male candidate because females will get married and they'll move on.
Yeah.
So this is 1 in a million cases, but that does exist. So conversations with people, if you hear something like this, talking to them, and then you can kind of stand there. So I'd been in that company for 5 years. So I was like, I joined as a fresher. If you had taken my interview, you would have rejected me. So where do you think this stands today? So it's these certain conversations, like I think Mallika mentioned, that there will be speed breakers. So those do happen. But I think there is so much opportunity. And one thing I think as women we don't do is reach out and ask for help or have the confidence that what I'm doing is correct. Maybe some external help is required to achieve this.
So, that's interesting because I'll admit, even until recent times, when one has been asked these questions in, like you're saying, these interview meetings, and it's not 1 in a million, it's far more frequent than that. I don't know how many of us, while we discuss it at these forums, or how many of us have the courage in that moment to say, actually, yeah, I'm getting married next month. Is that a problem? Because there is so much fear of judgment or losing that opportunity because of these choices. Mallika, jump in the sense, is it unreasonable to expect that, women will feel a little apprehensive about being so open in these kind of scenarios?
I think it goes back to what I was saying about choosing your ecosystem properly, because I feel like as women, like I was saying, we're grown under this dark cloud of women are not supposed to do this. Oh, you're a woman, you go to work, great, but let's sympathize and let's get back to real work because you're not supposed to be doing that. I think if we start changing the narrative about how we speak about women at work and then take away the woman part at work, we start expecting the men around us to normalize that just because I'm a woman board director, you can't expect a free vote, or you're not going to expect me to shut up or overspeak when I'm speaking. I will continue to speak and I will have you fired if you don't show me respect. I feel like that needs to start. Yeah, I mean, that's what men do, right? Like, I mean, or we've stereotyped them to being that way. I feel like women need to start saying, no, I'm not done. Or like, no, I'm not making that coffee. Can any of you board directors make coffee? Like, stop putting my gender in between what I'm trying to do here. I feel like if that is the narrative that we can sort of tweak on, I don't see why women in the future will have any problem going forward, because I feel like this is my contribution to, the work that I do, anything that I do, be it healthcare or education or the other content creations that I do for other brands. My goal is to reach out to that last child in a rural village in India and make them believe that you have the skill set it takes. And then amplify it the way you want to on your own timeline. But don't come back and say, oh, just because I come from, all those labels need to go. We're human, we're all able. We don't want to work, we're trading our hours because we want to be heard, seen, respected, be more productive, be more powerful, and help each other as human beings going forward, more so pre-pandemic. So I feel like, I feel like if we all here start saying things like, yes, my husband is more important, or yes, I'm getting married, or yes, I want to do this, and yes, I need help, and hey, can you also do this for me? We'll start making our own lives a lot easier because we're at work like the men are at work. Yeah.
Actually, and that's great what you said about asking for help, because it's true. Women always feel like they can't ask for help. They feel apologetic about it. But, you're all co-creating the future. Our tagline at Ladies Who Lead is co-creating the future. And you're all doing such important things in your individual space and environment, in what you're building. And I also really want to get an insight into that because it's so inspiring. Kanti, let me come to you first. In terms of the kind of growth, the way you see tech playing a bigger role, it's already playing such a huge role, but going forward, it seems to only become even more critical. Like I said, for those of you who logged in late, Kanti's company is touted to be a unicorn by 25, I think, of the last report I read. But tell us about what you're trying to do and how it's going to be really important to driving the future.
See, so I think the way the world is moving, the fact that we are all geographically distributed, and the way, the pandemic changed us in the last few years, while tech was, important and growing, I believe it's the single biggest industry that is essential today for things to keep moving. And tech has several aspects to it. You have the hardware, the software, the AI, the virtual reality. There are all of these different areas of tech, and all of them seem to be moving in exponential speeds than they were before. I feel that tech has the disproportionate ability to bring people together, to get them to collaborate, to get automation where things are largely manual, to get intelligence where there is just data. There's just so many conversions of the old way of working to new ways of working that tech enables. So therefore, I very strongly feel that having some level of tech understanding, being personally aware of what is happening in the tech space is probably useful for all of us. Everybody who is starting their careers now, having some level, if not expert level awareness, is definitely going to be helpful. And if you're an expert at something in tech, nothing like it. Your hot property. We all understand the Indian ecosystem right now in terms of the salaries and the crazy hiring that is going on at the moment, and tech is in the center of all of it. So I would definitely increase my skill in that area for sure, and keep learning the new stuff.
No, that's amazing. And that's a really important point, because that really puts it into perspective as well in terms of the kind of opportunity. Aarthi?
So just think about it, take manufacturing industry. You would have hardly called it tech earlier. But today, you cannot have a manufacturing industry without IoT, digital twins. It's all about tech. Take, healthcare, preventive diagnosis, in COVID, education. Can you even imagine our kids for 2 years studying from home, right? So, and when you look at education, there are so many startups blowing minds away in the education tech space. And again, same thing with, healthcare. So let's not look at tech as an kind of a product company trying to build solutions, but tech has become an integral part of every industry. Whichever industry you go, Sanchi spoke about design. There again, tech has become a very, very important component. And she also spoke about how she had mentors, to get tech savvy, if I can put it that way. So though core engineering will still be very, very strong, and that is required for any industry, tech has sort of become a common, function across. So competency there, and it is not difficult at all. We are good in science, we are good in math. It's, we are good in so many other aspects. This is not difficult at all, as long as the aptitude is there to learn, because the industry as such takes freshers and is ready to coach, mentor, and there are so many people ahead of us who can lead the way. So this is, something we can't escape.
Fantastic. And Sanchi, you did allude to it in terms of, what you're doing, with design and tech, but tell us where you see yourself in 5 years from now. Or I don't know if 5 years is like, just too long in tech. I should probably say 2 years or something.
It's not a matter of 2 years or 5 years, but personally, the idea that I have is, I feel that technology is an indispensable part of our lives today. And technology sort of constantly keeps evolving, and you really have to keep up with it. Otherwise, you don't really know what's happening. But at the core of it, I think in this frenzy, my personal goal is to make technology more accessible and more inclusive. So let me paint you a picture. I was once in a very remote corner of Nagaland, where there's absolutely no electricity, there's absolutely no internet. They don't speak any of the mainland languages. They have their own dialect. But I saw these little kids going to a village 30 kilometers away, getting a movie downloaded on their phone, and then coming back to the village, charging their phones on battery and watching Hindi movies, which they don't really understand, but they do understand the theatrics of it. So that is tech. In a place there's no electricity, there is no internet, it's still reaching there. But I still feel like I'm glad it's changing, but a lot of what we do is still focused on a certain demography. It's catering to the urban needs. And I think personally, I think tech can do a great deal of, it can make a great deal of difference if it reaches all corners of the globe and it is inclusive. Men, women, all kind of socio-economic class. And that is what I would like to pursue.
Very nice. Okay. Okay. Sukhmani, let me also get your perspective, because some of our viewers may not know exactly what in tech, so just your eye on the future, how you see things evolving.
Sure, I'm going to talk about a subset of tech because that's what I'm involved with, AI and machine learning, right? So what the concept that we have is kind of integrating it. So it exists, it's already out there, but how much of it can be integrated in your day-to-day life so that it makes your work easier? So we're doing a lot of work around, say, automation. So a legal audit that some company has to do. It used to take that person around 3 hours to go through a bundle of 300 documents and do that audit. Today, because of using AI and ML, we've been able to automate most of it. So now the first version of the audit is done. So the person now takes 30 minutes to do that. Similarly, we've built products for companies which do this. So what we're trying to do is, humans are more creative people doing this day-to-day basic things like building reports or sitting with numbers. You see a lot of managers, you see a lot of people across sitting with Excel sheets and trying to make sense with it. So the idea is to kind of remove those basic things from them so that that's all, or everything that can be automated is available, so that then they can start processing those numbers more and figuring out and start taking on the decision sides of things. So that's where tech seems to be moving more, at least from an ML perspective for me.
Okay, that's super interesting. In terms of, from what all of you are saying, tech is meant to make things easier for everyone. Is there any fear or risk of tech also making jobs obsolete? I mean, in a country like India, is it perhaps too early in the game to worry about that? Given what we're seeing overseas versus what we're seeing here in India, where would you say we're at when it comes to kind of really, really producing, let's say, powerhouses? I don't mean the IT companies, with huge offshore clients, but I mean in-house powerhouses that can have a larger impact. Kanti?
So, tech always had this stigma associated with it, that it is going to cause or increase efficiency and therefore reduce the humans needed around it. More and more, I think that is changing, that view towards tech being a replacement for humans. I think what tech is doing is taking away the boring activities, stuff which actually a machine should be doing in the first place. It is taking away, I take a paper, I scan it, I take a paper, I scan it. From that, it is saying, I will do all of that boring stuff, that mundane stuff, that repetitive stuff, and I will let you start taking decisions better. I will give you data organized in a format that you can now think of the next step and the next step and the next step. So, we do a lot of work with very large organizations, Fortune 500s, where the narrative has now changed. It is not about how many people can you replace. It is about what can my team now do, which is way more value creating and decision making than wasting a premium lawyer's time to read something and review it in a very boring way. So AI ML plays a huge role in that, in extracting information which can be extracted by machines, so that humans can look at that data and then take decisions on it. So we're actually changing the game, upping the game of what humans should be doing, as opposed to, using them for all purposes, which ideally should not be their job. So I would say that stigma is slowly and steadily going away. But yes, there will always be industries where tech has just come in or just got introduced, where there will be some human labor replacement. But it is on the folks who run those industries, who understand that space to repurpose humans and their intellect to brighter and better things. So, using tech as an enabler, not as a replacement.
What more do you feel we need to see in the ecosystem in order to, and I'm asking because I'm asking if we can find ways to pinpoint things that we can do in order to encourage more women leaders in tech. If you're already seeing the change, let me know if you feel the percentages are already going up. We were speaking with TCS yesterday, and they talked about how they have now 68% of women employees at the leadership level, and I think 35% overall, which is a pretty good statistic. So they've kind of been at the forefront of this. But do you really feel things are changing on ground? And if not, what more can we do? All of us at an individual level, and many of us, many of our members have also their own companies or are also working with other big companies. Aarthi, what do you feel can be done?
So, Abha, I definitely, in tech, I would say that the entry barriers or the, barrier for women to continue to work is not so much as in some of the, say, highly physical industries, or, you are in an offshore drilling company or something like that. And moreover, with, tech is the industry where there is more flexibility as well. Thanks to even COVID, so many people work from home. There are different time zones that we work on. Like, for example, I work so closely with my US management, so my mornings and evenings are gone. So if I have to take a break, it is sometime in the afternoon, and which I have to consciously look at, because that is also important for us to take care of ourselves, forget about family or anyone else as well, right? So for women, this is an industry which is, more of an enabler. It can help you achieve your personal goals as well as your professional goals. And so as long as what Mallika spoke about, right, we can break that myth about ourselves that, hey, I need to, take a break, or I need to take care of my child and I need to feed them at this time or whatever. If you want to do it, that's a choice. That's not a problem. But that cannot be an excuse, because this industry provides you that flexibility. People are working now from remote locations, from home, to contribute. And, so accordingly, we are also seeing more and more women move up in leadership positions. And I spoke about Freshworks itself, where we have significant amount of women in leadership positions. And we also have, I think, not just us, many of the companies are doing today, wanting to bring more women back into the workforce. We have a career restart program, which we have initiated. And in fact, I'm one of the mentors for that program for my organization. And so for whatever reasons, if you've taken a break, that is when it becomes difficult. How do you get back to the world, right? So even 1 year break, 2 years break, it's very difficult to get back in to the rocket ship, because people would have moved that far along.
5 years, and then they don't know what to do.
And so we are having career restart programs specifically for those women who can apply, and we coach them, mentor them, even for attending interviews. Then we coach the panelists, saying that how you should approach these women. Then once they are selected, then we have a 20-week program just to ensure their skills are up level, they're assimilated, there is no cultural differences and all of that. So there's a conscious effort, because tech industry is benefiting, right? More women, there is more empathy, as Kanti said, and there is different outlook, and there is definitely a better outcome. So it is in the interest of both parties. And tech is the most favorable industry, I would say, for women to be in leadership positions as well.
So, I think Aarthi said earlier, you can have it all. And Sukhmani, I want to come to you, because, you define that in so many ways, right? You've got the career, you've got the extracurricular interests also that people would never think of. I was mentioning this earlier. She's done Kanyakumari to Kashmir on her bike, and she's in the Limca Book of Records, right? Sukhmani. So, I would love to just hear a little bit more from you, at a personal level, some of the key milestones you felt in your life, that gave you a high, or just a little bit more, because I know a lot of people will take away from that and find that very inspiring.
Sure. Sure. I'll start with how the motorcycling journey started. I think I always wanted a bike. I don't know why, it was just a thing. And so in class 10th, I was told if you get 90%, we'll get you a bike. So that was my only motivation of starting in class 10th. That didn't happen because the rest of the family convinced it's not safe. Then afterwards, I went to college. They're like, fine, maybe you'll get a bike. But I studied in Manipal, and there we had a lot of cases of drinking and driving. We almost lost like a student a semester. So that was a reason for maybe not doing it. So then once I started working, I'm like, now I'm buying it. You can't stop me. Like, there's no reason to do it. So that's when, right 2 months into my job, I got my first bike and I started riding around. And this Kanyakumari to Kashmir was generally, people think that India is unsafe. You can't travel at night. It's like, people are weird about it. So the Kanyakumari to Kashmir was basically me and another friend, 2 girls on 2 bikes,
Wow.
and we did the entire cross-country part. And not once did we ever feel that maybe this was a bad idea, maybe we're not safe, maybe there's something wrong. In fact, we were crossing a random place in Madhya Pradesh. We just stopped to get something from the roadside. And there was this really old lady. She saw we were 2 girls, and then they're like, she had a reaction that here they don't let women do anything, and now look at you guys that you're doing this. So and a lot of times when you're sitting around, we do a lot of rides with women trying to get them into it. So a lot of times people will come over to us and say, this is really inspiring to see you do it. Because once you see someone do it, it becomes like, oh, maybe I can do it too.
Yeah, exactly.
And apart from that, this was 2 people. I've even done like on my own. When I had to go back to Chennai, I did Chandigarh to Chennai alone on a bike. Then I had to come back, did like via the West, Chennai, Kolkata, Chandigarh. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of freedom that you do. It's almost like a break from everything else. You can forget anything else that you're worried about. And that's been kind of one kind of go-to. So you work for like 6 months. It's crazy work. You continue doing it. Then for a week, just shut down and take a break. And that's something that I think in tech industry, it's pretty easy to do because you move from projects to projects. You have phases where there's a lot of work, where there's less work, and it gives you the ability to do that.
That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Thanks for sharing that, Sukhmani. And everyone, if you have any questions, just jump in, because these are very, very busy ladies, as you can hear. And so I'm going to start winding up soon, unless you have questions. So do send them in. Mallika, and your example is one of somebody who's just very driven at an individual level. You've been building your own thing and then experimenting and then doing something else and whatever. So she's been on the 40 under 40, and she's been doing a lot of creative things in the digital world. Give us a personal example, in your story, something that was a tipping point, or a mentor maybe, or something that inspired you, or anything that you'd like to share with us.
Thank you. I think, yes, it is very individual. And I feel like we already have on the panel someone who reminds me of my first boss. Susie Robinson was this female at the Australian Open when I was working. I was the only Indian who's actually apparently ever had that job of broadcasting at the Australian Open tennis for the ABC. And she was this female on top of it for a team which was filled with men. And when I walked in, and of course, people were like, oh, like we've got a new person on board, and hey, she's so cute, she's so fun, and the usual adjectives. And someone said, hey, can you get me the juice? And so she said, why no, you don't have legs? Your legs like move slower than her legs. No, pick it up yourself. And I was like, whoa, can we actually do that? This is so fun. And I see, and the reason I started off by saying that we need to tell the elephant to not take the spotlight is also because we have women like Aarthi ji, who have worked bloody damn hard to get us where we are right now. And in 2022, if we can't amplify for that, for ourselves, the position we are in today, for the next 40 years, we'll still be considered not mainstream. And I think going forward in a world that we're rebuilding for ourselves, it's so important that we become more inclusive. We have very limited resources. We don't even know which gender will survive the pandemic more. So we should appreciate that, and we should stop competing with each other, but we should coexist, celebrate that. Like I was saying, that we're not here to work. to earn our necessities. We're providing our resources to rebuild something, which is hopefully a lot more kinder going forward, and stop making excuses for ourselves. We're human beings, we're capable, and this planet is for us to save. So that's
awesome.
all that I can put through.
Awesome, very cool. I have a question coming in. This is from Nakshi. She's asking, do you suggest outsourcing tech development or building an in-house team developing tech at the initial stages of business, which is on the way to preparing for their first round of fundraising? And industry is wellness. Who would like to take that?
Probably, I'll give you my experiences. I've never had positive experiences outsourcing tech. For whatever reason, it's just not worked out. Even having like 2 or 3 core developers who understand why you're building something, what does your customer want, what do you want to portray, what does the user experience need to be like, that mental energy has to translate to the team working with you. And so outsourcing is, one step distance. They're doing it for the money. They're doing it on a month-on-month basis. That love does not translate easily. So having that team around you is probably, especially when you're in the beginning, where you're just putting the roots down, you want folks who are equally committed to what you're building, because it's going to be an experiment phase. So I do have a bias towards in-house team versus outsourcing.
I'm just actually going to chip in here and add to what Kanti says. I feel like we should never underestimate our teams. Our ideas need to be built with the teams that we put forth. Otherwise, you're just going to keep throwing in the money to people who really don't give a shit. And your idea is important. So even if it's a 1-person team, find someone you can trust, invest in that person. And I think the rest then just becomes easier. You can invest in other stuff, money-wise.
How does one source good people or a team for building tech? I know this gets a bit specific, but are there resources that one can look at?
I think in the tech industry today, the biggest problem is resources, getting good people. Everyone, I think, is struggling with that. So what has worked for me specifically individually is maybe reaching out to freshers who are interested, college people who are looking for an internship. It's not that they might not have the experience, but they're going to have the drive to do it. So suppose, like, if in a very specific thing, if you're looking to build a product or something and you want someone to experiment, that is one place where you can reach out to. And it all comes back to networking. I think a lot of us don't do that. It's as simple as reaching out to 5 people and, do you know, I need this. Do you know who can provide this to me? And someone will know someone who can solve your problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
I second what Sukhmani says. I think networking, asking for help, saying I'm looking for these roles, anybody knows anybody, hugely effective. And, if you can hire through the network, nothing like it, you will generally end up with like-minded people than natural, the normal methods of hiring through recruiters. So, I'm a big fan of network hiring.
Okay, fabulous. In fact, this was a chat on our members group the other day. Someone asked for a CTO and the response was, hardest thing to find in the market right now. So, all right. I just love, as we wind up, a couple of, takeaways that each of you would like to leave our members here with today, in terms of to-dos, perhaps, when they're building their careers, when they're building their startups, things that they should keep in mind, or how to go forth and claim the world, anything that you feel has helped you. Aarthi, do you want to start?
Sure. As I was saying, and as some of the other panelists were saying, I would just, probably leave 3 items, right? The first one will be just follow your passion, right? Mallika, Kanti, Sukhmani, Sanchi, look at them, like they're all passionate about what they're doing, and that shows in how they are performing. And whatever you do, unless, if you have the passion, you will find ways to achieve it, right? You will find things to do and to get there. Secondly, as I said earlier, don't look at imaginary choices. Just grab opportunities. If you don't believe in yourself, forget about what others can believe in you, right? And third and most important, according to me, and I know it is women. You're talking about people who are starting to build careers, but I would say, think about yourself. You are the most important person in this whole ecosystem. It is career is one, taking care of family, children, in-laws, and the work pressure and all of that will always be there. Follow a hobby, take time out to exercise, be in touch with friends. That is the most critical element. I just want to leave something here, right? I'm so proud of my mom. As I mentioned, she's a Tamil doctorate. She's retired. She's 75. And just in a week, she's giving her master's in Sanskrit. So keep learning. That is the only way to continue to be.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. So that's what is it. Take care of yourself. Then, the moment you're happy, everybody around you will be happy.
That's wonderful. We've covered quite the age group here, so in today's conversation. Mallika, would you like to go next?
I'm so in awe right now that I'm probably perhaps speechless. No, but I think for me, it's always been going forward, and all the reason I started was to innovate with purpose. I feel like all of us just sometimes end up getting so inspired by someone, and we're like, oh, that seems easy, we should do that, but it doesn't resonate with us. And the problem that happens when duplication is that when you scratch somebody's idea on the surface and start doing it, you're basically reproducing a duplicate, which is taking away the resources instead of just being able to collaborate, co-create, come together with someone. The resources I feel like are very limited. Even the internet, I feel like everybody feels like it's a free space, it's a free world, but our bandwidth is very limited, so we can't be selfish about what we're doing. So why are we doing what we're doing is very important. The intent is very important. And I feel like I keep going back to the ecosystem. I'm a product of it. I feel like it is very hard, particularly in a country like ours where everybody tells a woman what to do, but take your time. There isn't a timeline really. If you don't feel comfortable with someone, if somebody is trying to pull you down, if somebody's family is trying to not be supportive, breathe. Just be passionate about what you're doing. Keep learning. There will be a moment that will just be your breakthrough, and there will be somebody who will support you. It could be a man or a woman, but ecosystem is very important. You choose your people wisely, because that turns around your entire life. So be very careful of what you do inside.
That's very good advice, I would say. Kanti?
I mean, my friends have given such great advice. It's very difficult to, supersede it. The only thing I've learned though in life is three things. One, I am my biggest, supporter and my biggest enemy. If I could simply stop, putting myself down or thinking I can't do something, or, being in self-doubt, I probably will not, move forward too much. So, check all the doubts and, the things that we use to put ourselves down at the door. The second thing that has worked really well for me, I'm not the brightest or, the sharpest, but I can work really, really hard, and I will never let go until I get something done. And I think hard work and perseverance, and just the ability to hang around and just get it done. I mean, get to the end goal, I think is a very big skill. It, tests your patience. It tests, what other people have to say about you. It does a lot of that. And if you can just keep at it. And the third thing is that if you're going through trouble, you can be guaranteed that others are going through similar things. And if you can empathize, not just with yourself, but those around you, the journey for everybody becomes, that much more easier. So these three things have worked very well for me personally. So I would just pass that on.
So I would like to share something that I wish I knew as a 20-year-old something in the workspace. I think that in general, there is like this whole perception of men when they're authoritative, it is very acceptable, but women generally tend to be very apologetic. like we discussed, whether it's about getting married, having kids, taking personal time. So I think as women, we have to be less apologetic. And like Kanti mentioned that just be sure of yourself. If you are in a room, there is a reason, because you are talented, because you have that skill set. So I think if we just build that environment where we seek help, I've often seen in a workplace, if a man doesn't understand something, they don't hesitate in asking another man. But a woman does hesitate because she's so scared that she will come across as somebody who doesn't know her stuff. So I think that is a box that we need to break, and make the whole space a little more accepting. Women also have to contribute, and I would expect men also to be able to do that. Luckily, I've had some men along the journey who've created that space for me. And luckily that's changing, but still I think there's a long way to go. There's still a very subtle but a very real bias that does exist in the workspace. But I think we'll have to just learn how to navigate that. And having said that, I think, but we should still never be obnoxious about it. We should always be ready to learn new things. We should be open to new ideas. And that is how we can always go ahead. We should not be stuck with, okay, this is how things are done, this is my way. We should always be open to receiving and expanding our learnings.
And I can tell Sanchi is saying this from the heart, and she's clearly gone through some of this. Yeah.
No, actually, honestly, I never believed, like as a young girl, I never thought that there was an issue, because in design you don't really see that gender gap. There's a lot of women, but as as you move forward in more leadership roles, you do find yourself in rooms where you may be the only woman, or there are more men, so there's like this whole pro energy going on, so you feel slightly excluded. So it's not like somebody's really targeting you, but you can have those days where you feel like, do I belong to this space, can I ask for help? So it may be very subtle, but it is very real, I think.
Thank you. Sukhmani?
Sure. There was this article that I was reading, right? So when there's a job posting out there, a woman will only apply for that job if they think that they meet 100% of the requirements there, while a man is going to go apply if they even meet 60%. And all of us, I think, have done that. We think we might not be the right person, or self-doubt that keeps coming in. I think that is something we need to kind of actively work upon, and think that, yes, we can do it. We do have the skill set, or maybe we can navigate our way through all of that. So maybe that's one. And second is, it's okay to ask for help. And building that support system, I think, is extremely important. Because a lot of times you can't tell yourself that, am I at the right place? Am I doing the right thing? Like, for example, at this panel, when I saw the list of other speakers, the first doubt was, what am I doing here? Oh. But again, you keep thinking about it, all of it, and you realize that everyone does have a story to tell. Everyone has done something. So even if you might be starting out, you might have done a lot, just kind of trust in yourself.
Your profile was the most intimidating to the rest of us. So, I love what each and every one of you have shared with us, and I truly appreciate it. They're just such remarkable stories, and lots to think about all day today and in the future. You can see a lot of the comments on the chat, and I really appreciate you taking the time out as well to join us here on Ladies Who Lead, and hope that we'll continue to engage and interact with you. To share, to continue to inspire a lot of women on their journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. All right. Stay safe and have a nice day. Okay.